Everyone, thanks so much for being here. This is our All Black Everything Roundtable, which we do Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much, everyone, for stopping by. If you watch this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe, and consider becoming a YouTube member, hitting that join button, helping us out that way. It's a great way to support this community, keep it up and running. Yeah, shout out to all, well, a few, it's like we got like 10 members, but like shout out to them. Who are helping us out, because this is how we were able to keep this content coming to you 7 nights a week. We appreciate having all that content there. Then help us out. Okay, let's introduce our guests. Excited to do so. We'll start with GSU Gambit. Gambit, thanks for stopping by. Gambit's extremely busy these days, but he came through nonetheless, right? And in fact, he even came up with one of the questions. So. And he really wanted to discuss it, so let's do it. Gambit, how are you today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. And there's a lot of stuff that I can't say, but I'm doing good. Life has been awesome. I'm blessed. Happy to be here. I'll say that.
Thank you. Next we have Jay Cooks Nada. Thank you for stopping by. I haven't seen you in a little bit. She's been off. Not cooking anything, apparently.
Yeah, just gallivanting around, you know. Yeah, I'm doing all right. I guess it has been a minute. Just work's been busy. That's it. Yeah, work's been busy. Good things.
Don't know anything about that. Yeah. But
I make movies, so it's busy now.
You make
it's busy.
movies?
Yeah, I'm a producer.
Wait.
What?
The type that we were talking about, or you talking about like regular movies?
Like documentaries and narrative films.
Oh, not the stuff that you watch on stream. Gotcha. Okay.
No.
Okay. That means like I should definitely check out her stream, because it sounds like something exciting is happening there. I don't know what. But yeah, I didn't. I feel like you maybe mentioned this before, but it didn't really register to me. Yeah, you're a producer. Like, have you produced anything you might have heard of?
I just started at this company like in the fall. But they made the film "Won't You Be My Neighbor," like the Mr. Rogers documentary.
Wow.
A few years back, and we actually just announced another pretty big one, but I don't want to like doc.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was like, Prime just died.
No.
I'm joking.
Yeah. Okay, but seriously, Jay Cook, that's really awesome, and we love to see Black people on the come up. All right, next we have Smooth, who's not ready now. Now that Smooth, it's been a long time since we have seen you here, man. Like, happy to have you around. I hit this guy up all the time to get him on, but yeah, I'm glad you're able to accept tonight.
Yeah, man, I didn't been moving, man. I'm glad to be a part of this. Like, I didn't move. I was like had some other work stuff going on. It's funny that she mentioned films. I'm also like in film as well, but I'm not gonna, just like her, I'm not gonna say the project till it's done. Yeah, also because I'm normally in California, but now I'm in South Carolina. But the project's still ongoing, so I probably gotta fly back at some point. But yeah,
what's your position? I mean, not like what you're doing, but like your position there.
Like, so I'm a producer as well. Like, so like I'm
yeah, making connections. Love it. Like, yeah. That's actually really amazing. All right, yeah, I love to see people like spread their wings and flying.
This is my first one, so we're gonna see. We're gonna see what happens.
This is beautiful.
Dope,
yeah. Good job to all. Good job to all. Right. Next, we'll go to Fanatic. His occupation is host, apparently. So my man Fanatic is back with us. He's like, all right, no, I'll just leave.
He didn't know he could just edit that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think he's on mute too.
Yeah, I think he's on mute on his end. But well, Fanatic will be here soon. we'll hit up Django LeBert. Django, thanks for coming back. It's also been quite a bit since you've been here. How are you, Django?
I'm good. Like I said, studying more it feels really fun to learn computer science. I'm not gonna lie, so take advantage of talking to Gambit, and it's good to be here.
All right, a fanatic, you're back with us.
I don't know what that whole thing was all about. You know what I mean? Yeah, listen, I'm really happy to be here. I really love this topic. There's no way this conversation won't be interesting. I am a musician. That's what I do for a living, and a Christian. That's kind of the ideology that kind of drives me and my motivating force. I do the Fanatic Show on Wednesdays and the Nigga Panel on Tuesdays, where we discuss not just black issues, we discuss all issues, but just black folks doing it, which is obviously just going to give you better takes. And as a musician, it's great to know that there's two producers in here. I'm definitely going to have to contribute some music to some of you guys' projects. I'm currently producing music for one project, the video game, civil rights-based Phoenix Wright video game. I've done 3 songs for it already. I have 3 more to go, and I'm like really excited. And I'm finally getting more into the music production sphere for like composition for other projects, on top of the albums that I've released and stuff. So that's good. Everything is going good, and my relationship is going strong. I don't know. Life is looking up. I'm kind of feeling everything. The vibes are good. I'm excited for this conversation too. It's about to go ham. I promise.
Okay. Video game production for music. Wow. Like this dude. This group of people, right? This is a small group of people. Look how far they're going. Every single one of them. Ah, man, I love it. I love to see it, right? And even if you're out there, you're not in like a great position at this point. Like I feel you. Keep working at it, right? I can assure you, not everyone here was in the position that they are now. So like, keep grinding out there, all right? We're out here to support everyone, no matter what your color. Doesn't matter if you're not black. That's fine. But yeah, we're out here to support. So yeah, and people are working hard and trying to make their dreams come true, and we're here for it. And share with us. Okay, so let's get to the topic now. This feel good shit. All right, that's enough of that. Let's talk about how let's insult each other's intelligences. Topic 1. Cam Newton is in the news for expressing questionable views about women. He talks about how women should be quiet and let men lead. Do you think this view is common in the black community? Do you think that Cam deserves the criticisms he is getting? Or is he simply describing a family dynamic that some people prefer, and while not progressive, works for them? So yeah, Cam Newton was he's a football player. Someone here will be able to fill in those blanks. Is a football player, and he was being interviewed by this podcast type thing, and I can put the interview in chat. I'll use the link that you gave me, Gambit. Cool. But yeah, he was being interviewed, and he gave his opinions on family, right? So here it is in Twitch chat. He was giving his opinions on family and women, right? And talking about the type of household he wants, and that is like good and proper. And he said lots of stuff about like women's roles, and there's been backlash. So that's what we're going to discuss, right? This traditional sense, maybe, of marriage. So we'll start with a GSU Gambit.
Yeah, so I don't know how many people got to watch the whole interview. I literally fell asleep trying to watch it earlier. That's why I was a little second late. But it was such a dope conversation. The fact that the media has made this bad is like laughable almost. But in the clip, he was talking about the type of household he was raised in, where he had a strong father, and he feels like that was very influential his life to have a really positive figure. I have no problem with the type of family structure that he is saying that people should have. I think it's wonderful. I think the statistics on what the result of that household is on average versus others is very clear. So I'm a very big fan of everything that he said. I do think this is traditional talk in the black circles that I'm in. It's not traditional for Twitch because Twitch is a bit insane. But yeah, so I take no problems at all what he said, and there's a bunch of other things that they talked about. But I'll try to stay on this topic if I can. But the entire interview was slaps, like guys.
So yeah, and for everyone else, so I got two links. The one is the full interview. The second one I put in Twitch chat is the more condensed version. Like it takes those comments on we're specifically talking about. So you can look at that as well. If you just want to get to it. All right. Let's go to Jay Cook.
Okay. I actually didn't hear about this until it was brought up. So I'm not sure when this interview happened, but and I'm
I think
not
within the
familiar.
last week.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think so.
I
I've
think
just
so.
I think the YouTube video is 4 days.
It's like a few days, yeah, 3 or 4.
Oh, okay. I just didn't hear anything about it. So I guess the criticism, I don't think the criticism was that outlandish. I feel like if it would have been a bigger thing, I don't know, I guess I would have heard about it, but maybe not. I do believe I watched the video, the shortened video with the commentary that you had posted to us, Prime, but I do agree with Gambit that this is unfortunately I do agree that this is something that's commonplace in our community, but I don't think it's like a progressive ideology, right? Like I don't think that thinking opposite of this is progressive. I just think it's maybe untraditional, for lack of a better word, and like less religious, because I think that is associated with some of the views that he has, in my opinion. But yeah, I disagree. So I think we're gonna Gambit. That's the only point I'm gonna agree with you on, pretty much for the
Cool.
rest of the panel.
Okay. Thank you so much. Next, we will go to Django LeBur.
It felt weird when I was watching it, and he had some criticisms for females or for bad bitches specifically that he didn't, and he had like almost none for men. It was really weird, where he was like, females learn to cook, and by cook obviously he doesn't mean just cook. He means fill your spot in the relationship, to which he is saying like his household duties, right? And then second, no one to shut up, and then the third was let your man lead. Okay. The first one, I think you can easily levy that towards guys too, where it's like, hey, whatever you agree on is your spot in the relationship, is like you need to fill that role. So I think that's not the worst thing in the world, where you could easily say to someone like, if you're trying to be a bad bitch and you're neglecting your role in a relationship, whatever that is, that's gonna fuck up your relationship. Secondarily, wow, I'm so bad. I already forgot that. Know when to close your mouth. I think that's easily towards guys too. Guys need to learn to shut up and listen sometimes. And I could easily say that to both sides. Like it's not a one side type of thing. But then letting your man lead, I think that it's not specifically the man that has to lead all the time. If it's that dynamic that you chose, and I don't think he's saying that it is like the dynamic you can choose. I think he's saying the dynamic you should choose, and I don't agree with that. If you don't want to choose that, it's whatever. As long as you have people who are engaged in the children's lives, people who are trying to like lead in a good way, I don't see that it has to be the man or the woman. It just has to be that you're allowing and trusting each other in that relationship to guide that kid's life. I think that's way more important than just saying the man has to do it. It seems to be a conversation topic that I've heard a little bit, but I kind of looked into how people act more, and from what I could find, a lot of black households have guys filling up more household roles. So while I think it's very possible that it's more likely a talking point, I think it's also very possible that guys are more willing to, like, I guess, be more okay with like taking on roles that are traditionally like female roles, I guess, like household chores and all that. Yeah, that's about it.
Hey, smooth.
Okay, so I want to say like I don't disagree with anything Cam said, because when you listen to it in full context, nothing wrong with what he said. Because he said, first of all, he said to me. You say to me, that's your personal feelings. So I really don't see why people are upset about how he wants to run his house, like, and how he wants to see his relationships go. Like, he's talking about for himself. He didn't say, "Hey, I want everybody to be this way." Yeah, he has a set of people that he doesn't like how they are in relationships. You know, that's how he framed it. You know what I'm saying? That's what he said. Um, do I agree with him there? Not all the way, but like, you know, again, that's his personal preference. Like he said, he doesn't like women like that. He likes more of a traditional woman. So that's his prerogative. He also had criticisms for men that he laid out as well. He told men to be a man. Don't you know what I'm saying? Don't be. I can't exactly remember it, but he did have criticism for men at the same time. So
I
I
think he
don't
said don't be a
have.
sucker.
What now?
I think he said don't be a sucker or something like that. I think
Yes,
that was like,
He said don't be a sucker, but he said some other things too about
Yeah.
being a man as well in the longer full thing.
Exactly.
Because I watched some of this while I was at work, but that's about it. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. Yeah, don't worry, we're gonna have a fight about this. Next we got my man Fanatic.
And I just needed to unmute my mic before I spoke. So we're gonna have a fight about it for sure. Yeah, I checked for myself. Yeah, listen. I kind of salute Cam Newton. I think I really like his perspective. I think his perspective is particularly common within the Black community. What you'll find is that Black people are incredibly socially conservative, and he just is expressing traditional values. And part of what is being conservative is like adherence towards traditional values. And I think that those values make all the sense in the world, because when it comes to relationships, what you'll find is that like people like the idea of freedom, but what they also like is a lot of people like things that are familiar and that are traditional, and especially things that have better outcomes. And so while we love the idea of giving people the freedom to do whatever the freak they want to do, and like women, I like the idea that women are coming into their own, doing what's fulfilling to them, and some of that is being a bad bee or whatever. Like the thing is, you can do that, but then you start recognizing that men don't want that. And so what he's expressing is what I believe is a common belief, that very often men do not want a bad bee. What they really want is somebody that's able to like be their counterpart. Men love the idea of fulfilling the role of being the provider, of being the person that's like the breadwinner and things like that. And they also recognize that they want a wife that's going to be able to help them make a home and things like that. This is a very common belief. So then he's basically saying all of that energy about being a bad bee, being a top dog, being an alpha, like you can do that and be an alpha, and then like get yourself a body pillow and hug that at night, so that way you have something to sleep next to, because there's going to be plenty of dudes that aren't about that energy. And lastly, what ends up happening is you have these women that decide to be these bad bees and making all these profits, and then you have these dudes that are saying, yeah, listen, you're going to be the right now girl for me. You're not the right girl for me, you're the right now. And as a bad bee, you've made all these resources, so I'm going to go ahead and supply you with some good dick so that you can go ahead and start helping me with these resources. And then when it's time for me to actually settle down, I'm going to settle down with the non-bad bee, but somebody that actually has all of the values and things that I'm actually looking for in a woman, and that you've helped me get to the next level. And that's exactly what's happening with these women, and they're going to be upset about it, but that's just the life that we're living. That's the goals of most people. So you can do what you want for you, but don't be surprised when the people that don't want you are using you for your resources and going on and settling down with the non-bad bees that actually are more attractive.
Wow.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna fight. So I disagree. If you said you agreed with him, then I disagree with you. Because I think Cam Newton is proving himself to be a piece of shit. Right. So you're saying, Smooth says, he says it's for me. Like for me, like I prefer a woman like this. Like these are my personal preferences. That's it, right? That's not just what he's doing though, right? So I'm not gonna let him hide behind that fucking smoke screen, right? When he is giving prescriptions for people in general, That's what he's trying to do, right? But he's it's just my preferences, right?
Great
It's like
prescriptions.
I just prefer, like, just for me, right? I just prefer, like, not to interact with people of other races. But that's just for me. You guys do what you want to do, but just for me, yeah, I just kind of prefer not to. Like, they're not really reliable, and let me give you all these reasons why I don't like these people, right? But that's just for me. Yeah, I don't. So I'm not going to let him get away with that. Cam Newton is wants women to go back to a state where they are simply more passive. He doesn't like women who are active, right? He doesn't like women who like are like professional, right? He doesn't like women who like are apparently in sports, right? He talks about, like, he's surprised that women understand sports in general, right? This guy has like the most toxic form of, well, maybe not the most toxic, but a toxic form of patriarchal view on society, and yeah, fuck that guy. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on, wait. One thing, Django, but before we launch into Prime, Django, I do want to tell you that, like, in the full clip, he talks about men, like, extensively. They went down multiple storylines talking about men. It was talking about how men not real, specifically rappers, how they not living out west in their raps, and how that's influencing kids who believe what they're saying, but they don't understand that it's fake.
Oh,
He talked
so
about
the part I saw afterwards was only up until he kind of gave the story
no,
about.
I'm just trying to give you context because it's just not true that he didn't make lots of statements about men. They talked about prison, talked about niggas being scared that they gonna get raped when they go into prison, how that's just
Wait. So
not
was
like
this
live.
wasn't right after, right? I'm assuming this was like way later in the conversation, or was it?
It was like within 5 minutes of talking about the women thing.
Did
Yeah,
they move off the topic and go back to it?
Yeah.
They talked about
Maybe.
this for, like, I mean,
thought
a
I did
long
off
time.
as soon as they got off that, and then because I just assumed they would be done with it. Because I
Yeah,
remember
they
he told
weren't.
the story about him and his cousin or whatever, and then after that is when I did. So I'll agree that I seemingly missed that.
That's cool. No. And I'm not. I know you
Yeah,
said
good.
you
I'm
didn't
just-
have time to watch
Yeah,
the whole thing, so I'm just saying you should, because it's like it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Mhm.
Yeah, if we're talking about people being not real, that's cool. I guess I would still want to push the other half of it that I was saying of, like, his prescriptions could easily just go towards guys, though, in a lot of ways, of, like, people. I guess though what he's
But he didn't.
what he's probably
He
saying
sent it
is
to
that
women.
yeah, I know. That's why I'm partially criticizing. But the thing I will probably also say is that it seems like he's trying to tailor it not well. I don't know. It's weird because he kind of says he's talking about bad bitches and then talking about what a woman should be. And obviously, it's not just when he says it's for me. It's obviously for himself, yes, but it's his opinion on what other people should do.
Sure.
In general, yes.
I have no problem with
I'm
his
just-
prescription.
That's
'Cause
fine.
I
I'm
would
just-
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with him that this is what should happen. I think
Right.
the thing is, but while I think that this is what should happen, I think plenty of people will choose other alternatives. And of course, we live in a world where freedom is obviously something to cherish. And so we can say, while I think you should do this, this is what's good. I believe that you should raise your kids, and you should do so in a 2-parent household. I believe you should be heavily involved in that way. I believe you should be married before you have your children. Now, some people literally don't believe in marriage and just believe in cohabiting and having children that way. That's their prerogative.
Yeah. So,
but
all
I'm
of
saying
that-
you should do this.
Yeah. But so specifically with the man leading though is the part that I'm curious about because that's kind
Yeah,
of
I
what
think men
but
should
then
lead.
all the other stuff
Yeah.
is I agree with
There
you
we go.
100%. All those are super important.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
What?
Like let's be all the way honest. Like if the man isn't leading, you know what I'm saying? If he isn't a certain type of typical male, like, you know what I'm saying? Like most women aren't even gonna give him like that time of day. They're not gonna want that
Exactly.
relationship where they are
yeah,
dominant.
that's
and
fine.
on
They don't
top.
have to.
And then
You act like that's a weird thing in a
Yeah,
relationship.
it's
We're
it's
not-
No,
and that's
relationship
not
dynamics
something
are supposed to be
that's
working
uncommon.
off of each other, right? Like if one person's
No, but
not
we're-
going to work with that other
We're
person
just
because they have
we're
different.
just saying the thing that happens in the majority of relationships is probably what should happen, and we're okay with it. We're not saying that
all
you
I'm asking is
can't.
why is that?
No,
the
but
shit?
we're not saying that you can't live in a different configuration if you would choose to.
yeah,
You
if you want
just
to,
so
that's
happen
fine.
to want to. That's fine.
I'm not arguing against that part. I'm asking like what. So why specifically is that prescription with the man leading? Why is that the good one? That's all I'm asking.
Oh,
I think-
sure. So I think there's already like. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I think there's already like plenty of things that we recognize that are like natural things for men. For example, like disagreeableness. Because if you're going to be leading someone, then you're probably going to have to deal with certain sorts of confrontation. Part of the thing about leading is recognizing that life has adversities and being the person who says, I'm willing to face these adversities in order to make sure that we're able to overcome. Because life is challenging just in its own nature. If you're a person that's particularly agreeable, then you're going to probably be a lot more feckless when it comes to dealing with some of the like the issues that happen in life. And so if that's the case, then it makes all of the sense in the world that we would say a man who's more likely to be more confrontational and therefore able to overcome more of these obstacles would probably be the better person to lead.
yes.
Second, go ahead. That's enough right there. That's enough.
Yeah, I'm just gonna focus on that because we can go to the second part of it if needed. But so with that alone, would you say it's a better configuration for a woman with more disagreeableness and like that, able to take more of that on, to not be the leader there? If that was the case?
I would say because there are situations, you're totally right, where there are women who just are naturally more disagreeable and things like that. And in those cases, and I guess then those women can probably take on some of the leadership positions in those relationships. It just seems like numerically that there's worse outcomes for women that are in those kind of things, like that are leaders. Even the most aggressive of women still want a man to lead them. It is just the desire of women to be in that way in most cases. Now, obviously, there can be exceptions, but in most cases, this is what's the normal. And I think it's because normally, I think women who are acting in that way are typically acting outside of the typical nature of women. And I think most of them that's learned behavior.
I don't think it's that. I think it's that they're uncomfortable with being the leader in that situation. They want, like you're saying, they want someone else to be the leader, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be the leader. That just means that they don't feel like they're supposed to be in this relationship. That's fine.
If it feels awkward and unnatural, I would probably say that they should probably go with what feels a little bit more natural and less awkward.
Yeah, in that situation, I would say that, but I'm also saying that it would probably be better if they wanted to do the role that they seem to be better at. And if you're better at being the leader, take on the leadership role. That seems like, obviously it's at a disconnect with what they want emotionally, though, right? I understand.
Well, sure. So what you're basically saying is they should follow their natural inclination, despite the fact that like their natural inclination is still it's leading them to want someone else to do it. So then, if your natural inclination is something that's leaving you awkward, then it's probably meaning that this natural inclination is probably not natural. It's probably environmentally caused or some learned behavior that probably you would want to like distance yourself from. Like, but until you have that, then go ahead and do what you got to do. And if this is what your strong suit, follow your strong suits. But you probably you're gonna have to probably help that man learn to be a little bit more alpha, so that way you can actually rest in the place that you want to. Because I think that's like femininity. Like lots of women would like to rest in their femininity, and I don't think you can do that when you have to be an alpha because you have some feckless cuck next to you.
Isn't it exhausting though, leading the relationship all the time? Is that not exhausting? Okay,
sure.
So then,
but it's our job.
Yeah.
It's our
Because
job. But why?
Okay,
I just have a quick follow up. So then, why would it not be better to have a partner in that leadership? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why does it have to be one-sided leadership? That's what I'm hearing.
I think they were
part of.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I was going to say a part of leading is understanding that somebody is being listened to you and taking into account so there should be input from. We're not saying like, hey, get your ass in there and cook. Like that's not what we're advocating for, right? Like it's a melding of.
Like
that's what Cam's going for.
No. To be fair.
No.
What? What?
So,
I feel.
I understand. Like I think if he presented it like Fanatics presenting it, and it's possible that he's just not as eloquent with the wording. The problem is the
he's
way.
A football player.
Yeah.
Come on.
But all I have to go off is what he is saying, right? So like, what he is saying, what's coming out of his mouth, even if it's not what he means, is kind of what we're working with. And what's coming out of his mouth is that, hey, let the man lead, and it sounds like he's saying, shut up and let the man lead. But what he's saying is like, listen to your man and help him out while he leads.
I think it's unfair to listen to his words in a silo. Us, like if we weren't black, maybe, right? But we all understand black culture. I think we should be able to translate him saying that to something more like charitable to kind of what me and Fanatic are saying. I don't think we should engage with this as he's a tyrant saying that women should just let the hell
That's
up.
why I'm also like,
intention.
Exactly.
You don't.
Yeah,
It's not a translation that you're having to
okay
do, though.
keep your mind open to be like, either one is very possibly what he meant. Like, he could literally mean either, and you would have to ask him more questions to get further down that tree.
No, I would say, given the context on how he's also critical of men and the things that he's exactly critical for, is understanding that
he's
he
critical
is.
of men. Oh wow.
You say what?
Oh, this is terrible. He's critical of men. Oh, sorry,
No,
smooth.
I'm saying,
Smooth. Go ahead.
If you listen to the entire body of work,
It
I don't
doesn't
think anyone
matter.
comes away with. You
Wait,
can't
oh,
say
wait, hold on.
It literally doesn't matter.
Prime. Are you making the statement that greater
you can't be
context doesn't matter?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not making.
Stop.
I didn't say I was making that statement.
Hey,
I'm saying
so-
that though. Cam Newton and his words, like saying that he also like criticizes men like means nothing. Okay, great, yeah,
Well, I'm trying
right.
to give more context.
Like racist people have criticisms of lots of things, right? It doesn't negate the fact that they're racist. The fact that he criticizes men as well doesn't negate his sexism. So like whatever, sure.
Wait,
Okay,
no, but what I'm saying is,
he's having
no,
a
hold on.
criticism of black people,
It's a
and
bit extreme,
then he's having a criticism of two different races, but he would be saying like another race's culture and my own culture is basically what he's saying.
No. Like he's
And-
talking about the confines of a relationship, and I think you have to do a lot of work to not naturally understand what he's saying. I think it's the reverse of what y'all are saying, or maybe we've just
feel
been
like
like.
if you really look at what he said, right, and how he started, he said my dad has been with my mother for 37 years, right? That's what he said. That was his basis.
It starts at home. The toxicness starts at home. Yeah, I believe his dad taught him poorly. I get that. Yeah, I believe that.
Okay, that's very disingenuous. But to say his dad just taught him poorly, I mean, clearly Cam Newton is successful, so something went right.
That had nothing on. That has nothing to do with how you
hold on, no.
Abusers can be billionaires. Like the fuck? Oh, he's got money, so something must have went right. No, his dad taught him poorly. Didn't teach him the proper way to be a man, right? If this is how he's behaving. No. So if he wants to go there, then yeah, his dad did a shit job. If his prescription on the end is women should quiet down and let men lead, right? And that if you are trying to take control of your life, right? Meaning a quote unquote bad B, right? Which is what he was saying before. Then that's a problem, right? That's not. If he's saying his parents taught him that, his parents did badly. Go ahead.
So
listen. Even the greatest captain of a ship, right? He has other people that do other jobs, and he will listen to what they say. They're an expert in that field. If your woman happens to be an expert in that field, he would naturally yield the floor in that occurrence to let her take point on that issue.
Yeah.
Being a leader is also
100%.
knowing when to follow. You have to know when to follow. You can't just run
sleep in the floor
trap all the time.
Yeah,
Prime, you are right.
Like, I'm sure the women are experts in those things, right? And
for sure,
sweeping home care, right? It's almost natural. It's almost their natural place, right? Like maybe, right? I don't know.
No, it's not as much as like, oh, they're naturally meant to do this. It's saying, hey, like in the dynamic of the relationship, you're the one who's better at this. Take the lead at the thing you know how to do and the responsibility in the relationship. And then
and men are the leaders.
Let men take the other half.
They're the natural leaders.
That's the part that I disagree with. That men
are natural
ought be the leader. But
see, there you go.
We agree.
See, no, if you see, there you go. They're proving me right. So
yeah,
go ahead.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I don't. You don't got to steal man for me. Yes, I stand by that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Men are natural leaders. I think that, like, literally, they're not. I think again that disagreeableness, which is like inherent to more testosterone-based individuals, is something that's literally essential for leading. I think logical decisions are significantly more impactful for decision making. Now, obviously, you have to make some decisions from the place of human-based values, and so you're going to probably need to do both. And I think that women are amazing at like making sure that they're steering. And I've always loved this saying where they said that men are the head, but the women are the neck, and they can somewhat steer the ship, and they get to control what that head does. And I believe absolutely every man needs to listen to his wife, and that she has probably valuable input. But I do think that there are areas of expertise. I'm not going to go into the kitchen and tell her, I don't think you should use nutmeg there. Use cinnamon. Like, what the freak are you talking about? That's not my area.
And the
Do what
head
the
is
freak
below.
you do.
The
And
neck
I'm
is below
saying,
the
like,
head, right? Just want to make sure
well,
that we got.
I
Yeah.
mean, it depends. You know, it is.
I mean, yeah,
It
oh,
is,
yeah, it is.
but-
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have. That doesn't mean it has less value. Like the neck, because
That's
obviously
not how that
the
works.
the hand is lower than the hand is lower than the
Yeah,
shoulder.
but like it's
I
not
don't think
actual
my
metaphor.
digits
So
have less
like it's a
value than my
strained
shoulder.
metaphor. So I mean, whatever. But like it's a strained metaphor. I'm just like working within the logic of it when there's very little.
But
so,
that wasn't no. You can't.
but that's like not
extrapolate
how
from
actual
that.
human
That's not
relationships
fair.
work, right? It's not like how human relationships work. So like
Wait,
we
they do
like
all the time. What do
less
you
we
mean?
do less value. We devalue women, right, in our society while men.
Again, what we're arguing right now is not about like whether or not some men have the tendency to do this, because obviously we recognize that some men have the tendency not to. What we're arguing about, like bringing up the fact that people devalue women, is only relevant if it's an inherent or necessary portion of the thing that we're discussing, and it isn't. I think you can absolutely recognize that men can be leaders while still recognizing that the absolute value of a woman making a house a home is absolutely essential. The idea of like someone having a humongous impact on childbearing, I think one of the most important things that you could ever do in your entire life is raise children. And I think women should have more of an impact on children than men do. And I think that's probably the most important job literally in the world, one of the top two. So then it's like, to me, it's like, no, I don't think that you're any less valuable. And I don't think that I don't have value when it comes to like children. But I do think I would play second fiddle when it comes to my wife in that regard, where it's like, dang, like, you know, this is how I feel. But she spends more time with these kids than I do, without a doubt. She probably, you know, she's literally known them more because they've been literally nine freaking months inside of her freaking stomach. There's like all of these things, really 10 months. But anyway, there's all of these things that we know, like where it's like, yeah, this is areas of expertise. And these things aren't less value. It's just, this
Yes,
is
exactly.
That doesn't make any sense.
Everybody who understands relationships understands this. Just because you have a different role doesn't mean you have less value. And it's wild when people make the claim that just because you think men should take the lead on certain tasks, that they in some way devalue women. That's wild.
Okay.
Like, some people do that, but don't scrub at us to say it's inherent to what we're proposing.
Okay, so this idea that men are naturally leaders, that's absolutely not the case, right? Men are humans, right? And humans come in wide different varieties, and a wide different perspectives, right? And inclinations.
Yes.
And certain people, right? Certain individuals among men, are good leaders, right? And certainly the same amount among women, as far as I know. Like, as we can't take a poll on this. That's difficult. But like,
Look at
to just say that, like, oh well, men are quote unquote leaders, and that women, they have some sort of natural inclination to these other things, right? Whether it be homemaking, right, or even child rearing, right? Women don't necessarily like have that. Like, the fact that like a woman has carried a child for 9 months, like, actually means nothing in her ability to take care of that child or her desire to take care of that child, right?
100%.
So, okay, great. But then we're making progress. I love it.
I don't think we are, because literally no one ever said anything about like something that was 100%, right? We obviously recognize there can be well, that's what you were implying.
I said natural inclination. I didn't say 100%.
Sure. And again, you know that we're obviously using generalizations because we're talking about something that's relative to the human condition. So it can't just broadly apply to literally every individual. It's more about like a generalization. Like, so I got to ask you a very simple question. Do you think that agreeableness is a trait more commonly found in women? Yes or no?
It's not a yes or no question, because
it's not.
No. Well, let me say it, right. So I think the answer is yes, but only because our society, punishes women who are disagreeable. That like this personality trait does not exist in isolation, right? Women who are disagreeable make themselves heard, right? Well, they'll be told, well, you're being a bad bee, right? And then maybe men won't want you, right? Like, okay, all right. I guess I was trying to follow fanatics.
Say whatever you want, bro. That's me. That's
I
would say
no.
Jacob.
Oh, sorry. Go.
When women are in positions of power, right? Like, if you have a boss who is a woman and she tells you to do something, like the stereotype is like, oh, she's being a bitch, like she's being bossy, she's being mean. Like, those are stereotypes. That's a negative trait. But when a man does it, it's fine.
They say niggas are being tyrannical. That happens
I was
too
gonna
sometimes.
say, Jacob, if you have a boss that's literally, if a man has a male boss that's like making him do things that he thinks is absurd and ridiculous, he's not gonna call that man a douche or a dick or a tyrant or any of
I'm not
those
talking
things.
about things that are ridiculous. I'm talking about reasonable things.
Well, so then if it's reasonable, I don't think most people would just complain about it. I think most of the time, like it's already implied literally in the statement that she's a B, like that it's already implied that these are things that are like something that are unfair or unreasonable or unnatural, right? Like if it's like a boss that's telling me to do the things that I'm supposed to do, you'd probably
People
say it's
don't
a good
react.
thing.
People don't react like super logically to work requests like this. Sometimes people are being told to do like, hey, they're like, hey, do this thing extra. Like you may have really good.
You
teams,
just said
but
extra. So we're saying again. I was talking about things that are natural, that are typical,
Sure,
that are like that we
hey,
whatever.
Hey, organize this or clean this. Hey, organize this or clean this
like-
thing, or like you didn't do enough of a good job on this. Like go do it again, or stuff like that. And then people will have different reactions based on how they look at that person, how they look at that superior, right?
Okay, so so let me just make sure that again, because I don't want to get too obfuscated here. Do you think that people have those same negative attitudes that you just claimed, Django? Do they have those towards male bosses as well?
I want to say not as harshly towards males, no.
Okay. All right. Well, so yeah, so I would say that at least we do know that, and I do reject the notion that it's like literally only because of society. I think it has to do with I think some of these things are biologically driven. But yes, obviously, agreeableness is more common amongst women. And maybe if we get to some dream society where maybe we find some way of like completely eradicating all of the like societal implications that lead towards this, like maybe some of the Scandinavian countries have, then we'll see these outcomes different. Oh wait, we don't. We actually see that the outcomes are actually more along the lines of what we're talking about, that women are significantly more agreeable. So I think the idea that it's all society is crazy. So because of that agreeableness, that I would say is somewhat inherent to something natural. And again, this does not apply to every individual. You have cuck men, right? And that's what partially where I get my job from. So like I get that, like, but I'm not saying that this is like everyone. I think it's more about like generally, broadly, more commonly you'll find like amongst.
I fucking love Fnatic, even when I'm disagreeing with them.
I actually that base point, I'm pretty sure that base point I agree on. I was just going at the people how they react to a boss like asking you to do something. That's the only part I was trying to critique. Because I'm pretty sure you're right about the agreeableness. I was also going to say though, societally there are pretty big impacts in terms of like when a boy is going to do something, like when they're growing up, a boy or a girl, a lot of people will push the boy to do like to push harder through something and be more disagreeable than they will
setting them up for the future.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and it ends up hurting girls in a lot of ways of being like negotiating for salaries is a big one.
100%.
And that can also, that's kind of what is hurting them in the long run, which I think is Fnatic, or not Fnatic, that Prime is kind of talking about in how it shows up.
I agree.
Yes, which is why we tell women to be disagreeable in things like salary negotiations and things like that. So we can tell women to attempt to go against your natural tendencies of like sacrificing for a greater cause somewhere, or whatever we want to classify disagreeableness as.
It's not about sacrificing for the greater cause. It's about learning.
It's sacrificing for conflict resolution. It is. That's
it's teaching them how to deal with that type of situation. Yes.
No, but it's teaching them to. I don't know how we boil down agreeableness, but I think this is what agreeableness is. It's like being less confrontational for the sake of no conflict.
Sure.
Or something.
I get that. I'm saying, I guess what I'm thinking is that I don't think agreeableness is as strong of a characteristic as you guys are making it out to be. I think wait. So when I say
what does that mean?
Yeah.
When do we quantify it? What are you talking about?
I'm saying that I don't think it's as has as strong as an effect in like how it shows. I think
you talked about its importance in salary negotiation.
Yes,
you gave.
That's what I'm saying. When I say strong, I don't mean like how important that is. How important that characteristic displays from. Sorry, I'm wording this so poorly. How that characteristic comes out in males versus females. I think that difference. I don't think that different. No, I don't think that difference is as wide as you're making it out to be. That's all I'm saying.
Well, how wide are we making it out to be? Because I don't remember quantifying it. I just made the statement. I'm sorry. I thought I just made the statement that agreeableness is a trait that's more commonly found in women. I didn't quantify anything or qualify that at all. Literally, that's all I said. And we do know that agreeableness is more common in women. So if you're saying to make this statement, it's not as much as you're saying. I need to figure out what are you talking about, because I never quantified.
Yeah, you didn't. The implication of how it sounded like it was a great difference. That's all I'm saying. And Prime was saying, hey, there's societal impacts that are widening this difference a fair bit. I'm pretty sure that's what he was saying. That's what.
I don't.
And it
I
sounded
don't
like
know
he's
how
making it
great.
sound like a big thing.
I don't know how great the difference is because I don't have any like studies or things to like enumerate it. All I'm saying is specifically that this is a trait that's more commonly found in women, and I think that this is biologically driven, and I think that this is obviously a trait that's necessary. I'm sorry, agreeableness is not a trait that's literally best for leadership, because leadership is, again, like one of the most important goals with leadership is decision making, and decision making has to deal with confrontation.
Yes.
And I would
Wow.
And
I would
would even
add
say,
that, like,
Okay, Prime, you're laughing. Let me just make sure that we're clear here. Do you think that decision making is a particularly important role for leadership?
I think so, but like, if
Okay.
the implication of your statement is that women are worse at decision making, right?
they're more agreeable.
Because yeah, exactly, right. Because in your excuse is because they're more agreeable. Women are not worse at decision making. Women are not worse at leading. Our society punishes them if they have an opinion. Certainly, that is the case, right? They call them a bitch, and this is not the same, right? As calling your boss a fucking tyrant. Is that the best you got? Seriously, no.
No, we
There's a
just
reason.
parallel to
There's
what
a
y'all
reason.
said.
It's not a parallel because there's a reason why you reach for the B word, right? It's because it's a gendered attack against that woman.
It's because
Like,
what
What
they
about calling-
use
like, that's
calling a
like
male
the
boss a
literal
dick?
basis of it all, right? Now, we've all literally all done it, right? Because it's like ingrained in our society. Because exactly
No.
that. Because it's so acceptable that we attack these women. I have to actually train
you
myself
think
because
people
when I have a
women
disagreement
bitches
with a
on the
woman,
regular?
right? Like my
Hold on,
my
Prime.
hold on. When I have a disagreement with a woman, my natural inclination is to say that she's a bitch, right? And I've literally had to retrain myself. Hey, that's not cool, right? There's all kinds of other names. There's a whole world of names I can call this person,
What you
right?
just did,
But I'm
you
not
did-
gonna
what
do
you-
that. Sorry.
What you just did is beautiful, but it's disheartening to me that you don't understand what's at play. This is the Scandinavian study. Sociologically, we reinforce ourselves to be more agreeable as men than we actually are. That's why the data in Scandinavia was the women are even more agreeable or the men are less agreeable when you remove the societal barriers. Our societal barriers make us more
I
civilized,
don't accept your
which
premise.
makes men give up disagreeableness and makes women give up less agreeable.
Hey guys, Scandinavia is a region of the world where sexism has been stomped out, right? We're all
Nobody
those,
said that. Wait, nobody said that.
okay, so
You
then
gotta
like it
engage with
doesn't
what I
matter.
said.
So
You
okay,
engage
great,
with what I
great.
said,
So
Brian.
then it doesn't matter, right? So like because that has not the case, right?
Brian.
Then it actually doesn't matter. Then why are you using
Brian.
Scandinavia as an example?
Okay, let me
Maybe I
let me
have it
explain
wrong.
because maybe I misspoke. I'll take it as time I misspoke. So I'll restate again because you said why are you using Scandinavia? Okay, what you're talking about are external forces like our culture forcing women to be in these roles. So what I'm showing you is that if you go to countries that have less of these external barriers, the difference is magnified, which means that it points to our culture is suppressing men's disagreeableness and all of that type of stuff.
Prime, can I preface one thing you said earlier?
As if repressing women is something that's unique. Was it to American culture? To
I never
Western
said it was
culture?
unique.
Oh, it's
Prime,
not.
you
Okay,
can't
so it's
get
all
into-
around the world. So I don't know why Scandinavia. Why
Wait.
Scandinavia is the point? You're saying like
Oh,
it's
sure.
different. No, like unfortunately, repressing women is fucking universal, almost
I get you.
universal.
So,
So
we do agree. We do agree that oppression is worldwide, but I think the point is trying to say, so since we know that oppression is worldwide, how do we test its effect? So let's look at areas where there's less oppression and then see if these outcomes that we're trying to create some sort of causal link, then if we can see that if there's a correlation here, right? So in other words, if we're saying this is what causes X is what causes whatever Y outcome, and we're saying, okay, let's look at areas where X is less prevalent. Is the Y outcome less prevalent? And so then if the Y outcome is more prevalent, then it sounds like X is not the cause of Y, number one. Number two, you made the statement that we were talking about, like, that we were making a gendered attack whenever we reach for the B word. And I don't think that it's necessarily about making a gendered attack. The reason why we use that word is because the dog is literally the most domesticated animal in the country, in the United States of America. And so when you look at the way that female dogs act towards their puppies, this is where this thing kind of originated from, then this is where you end up like, there's like this very, raucous, combative way that like these female dogs can act towards their puppies in situation, and that's where that thing originated from. Do I think it's a positive thing? Absolutely not. Clearly, it's a negative slur. But the idea that it's like, oh, we're just only reaching for this word, it's just that's the most common reference that we have. Furthermore, we also do use all sorts of male gendered slurs. I guess I could probably just think off the top of my head and try to come up with a bunch of them. But very often the male equivalent is dick. We call someone a dick, right? Like, and that's typically something that we would say, oh, this person is overly aggressive or overly douchey or so on and so forth, right? So like, it's not like the gendered attacks only go in one direction. They're both sided.
Okay, so I'll respond. And so sexism isn't some sort of uniform thing, right? And we can say that this culture, and though we use language this way, but it's improper, right? Where we can say this culture is like less sexist. Like, what does that mean? Now, that's something we'll say, but like, what does that actually mean, right? Sexism comes in different forms, and it's ingrained in our society, like human society, in so many different ways, right? That's like literally invisible to us. So so the reach that you're doing, right? So hold on, I gotta engage with Fanatic what they said, right? So Fanatic is saying that I'm literally trying to. Give me a second, I'm trying to. So like you're saying, right? If we're testing for X, right, and the second society has less of X, right? We're seeing what the difference is in the result. Am I correct there? Is that what you said, Fanatic?
Yes.
Okay,
sure.
great.
Yes.
So, but what is if X is sexism here? What is less of, right? So, women maybe in those countries. Hold on. Women in those countries might have like more roles in like government, right? Like, and that's which is leadership, right? You know, there you go. But like, they might have more roles there. In those situations, but it doesn't mean that because outside in their professional lives, they're allowed to. It doesn't mean that inside, like in a relationship, in their private spaces, they aren't given the same messages, right? I'm not making a claim one or the other because I actually don't know.
Yeah, but that's
like,
specific. No, I just want to help you. That's specifically what the point of the study was. They came up with and I can't tell you exactly what they are. I used to know them off the top of my head, so I'm actually pissed right now. They came up with identifiers for identifying culture that embraces sexism, such as pushing women out of these fields and all of that type of stuff. So they came up with ways to identify what sexism is, and then they tested that across multiple societies, and they looked at legislation in multiple societies, and then they determined based off that view this culture is far less sexist based off people who do this for a living. Sociologists who try to identify what sexism is at a technical level, they use those technical indicators to show that this culture, and these are left-leaning sociologists, by the way. So these people did these studies and they determined that this culture is less sexist than American culture, and that in those cultures, it was more pronounced, the differences that are personality based.
So I'll have to see this study, because I'm making emphasis on some random stuff I've never even heard of. So I'll have to see the study and take a longer look at that. But in the end, like if they're judging on legislation, again, I haven't seen this fucking thing, but like they're judging just on legislation, right?
No, not just on legislation. It was one of the technical indicators.
Okay, so I'll have to see the study. It's hard for me to engage with it, like to actually take a good look at that study. But that's fair enough. And then I'll just like address Fanatic's other 3 points, and I want to hear from everyone else. Bitches, yeah, we brought up the whole thing about bitches. Oh, and we use it because female dogs are like, was it like disagreeable or like have some sort of a relationship with their young, and that's where it originated from. Who the fuck cares, right? The reason why we use it now, right, is a gendered assault on women, right? So like, it may have started that way, but like as language progresses, right? Language progresses in a myriad of different ways, and like for instance, when we're calling a man a bitch, right? What we're doing, right, is trying to rob him of his masculinity, right? Like you are now a female, and being female is bad, right? Like that's a worse state than being a male, right? Isn't like a neutral thing. Oh, you're more a feminine characteristics, right? And that's fine, right? You can either be masculine or you can be feminine. There's no big deal if you switch between the two. No, it's a problem, which is why people react badly when you call them a bitch. Why I would never do that to any of you, right? They would react badly because you're robbing them of that masculinity. So yeah, I don't care about like originally it was because of the female dogs have a certain treatment of their kids, and then finally the word dick being the same as bitch, right? It's not quite. I mean I think that's like probably your best response to me so far is that one, but I would say that bitch has a more toxic space in our environment, right? If you're ranking these things, right, N-word at the top, right, bitch somewhere below that, and then dick way below that. That's where I would go, but that's my personal look at that. All right, I'm done.
Really quickly, again, it's not just that like, oh, we're just doing it because it's gendered. It's specifically pregnant dogs are significantly more aggressive. Like the hormones in a pregnant dog, specifically, I just Googled it to make sure because I always knew this was the case, but it's better just to do it. Yes, pregnant dogs can get aggressive. The gestation period is much shorter than humans at around 2 months. During this time, unusual behavior is common, including and even the most placid and loving dogs can exhibit agitation during gestation. So like that's why we have like the whole like that word is because specifically like this like when pregnant dogs like are pregnant dogs are significantly more aggressive, and literally before like it became an assault or attack on women, this word was that's literally just the scientific word for that, right? That was a name for a pregnant dog. It was the B word. So like that's where this association is with people getting aggressive. It's not like that crazy of a reach. We obviously understand all the connotation and negativity behind that. We can I don't know why we like try to look at these things as simply as just saying it's in a bubble. And lastly, I mean it really does go to say if in like just looking at just basic freaking equations, if x equals y, then 1/2 x equals 1/2 y. So if x being freaking oppression to women equals y, this specific outcome, and we're saying, hey, here's less oppression to women, right? Like then that means we should have less of this outcome. It's really crazy to me that we would like be simple-minded enough to look at this thing as reductive as if x is present, then y, right? Like that doesn't matter. Like you would, because 2x is 2y, 3x is 3y, right? Like this is just the way math works. So if we're saying that oppression to women results in this outcome, the idea that we're trying to show you, like we're taking studies to consider where there's a less of an occurrence of this thing, and you're trying to say it doesn't matter. If any of it is present, then none of this stuff matters. It's freaking reductive as freak.
Yeah.
Okay, the most reductive thing that was just said is equating sociology to math, right? And if that's what you're doing, right?
But
like
he said
half
if
of
x equals y.
Half of x is
Wait. You're aware that it has to be mathematical, right?
No,
you're
it's not mathematical.
Your statement is mathematical. No. Your statement is mathematical. You said due to oppression, outcome exists. So you're saying that as we increase this thing, a certain outcome will also be increased. That's what you're saying.
That's not what I'm saying, because I wouldn't be saying something as stupid as that. I wouldn't do that, right? I leave that up to other people in the panel. No, sociology is not math. Sociology is not math, right? So like
Prime, this is really bad.
We like humans, right?
Prime,
Hold on. Let me finish. You want to know?
No, because you're running away from the question.
Sociology is not math, right? There's no like direct.
Can I ask you a question then? Can I ask you a simple question?
When I'm done, you can.
You're finna run away from the question.
When I'm done, you can. I will answer your question when I'm done, but not until I'm done. So wait till I'm done. Thank you very much. Okay. So it's not a simple input as in 5 plus 5 like equals 10, right? So 5 units of sexism plus 5 units of racism equals, right, how black women are treated in society, right? Like that's not how that works, right? So to say half equals or half of sexism, whatever that would be, right, equals a different result on the other hand, like that you could measure 1-to-1. You can't. There's no way. It's like impossible. You can't do that with social. That's why it's very hard to measure. That's why like I had to see the study to try to understand. I can't. It's hard to engage the study. But like
yeah, that's my fault.
To say
shouldn't have used numbers at all. That's my fault.
Okay,
Like,
great. And
No,
then,
so-
finally, no one
Let me
cares
ask you a
about,
question,
no
Prime.
one knows or gives a crap about the behavior of pregnant dogs, right? We use the word as a gendered assault. People aren't thinking in their minds, because
We're talking about where it came
pregnant
from, the
dogs are
etymology.
hormonal. That's why I'm using this. Fuck.
Wait, we're talking about the etymology and why it came to existence. But I want to ask you a really simple question because you said things. You said that due to the oppression of women in our culture and wanting women to repress their feelings of disagreeableness, you said that leads to women wanting to be in these more agreeable roles.
Yep.
So what I'm asking you is, if we remove all of the sociological reinforcement of oppression of women, do you think that women will be able to naturally live more disagreeable or not? So do you think if you reduce this, that this other thing will increase?
No.
Mathematical.
No. That's different. Reduce, right? Like, is different from eliminate. So if you're saying, if we had a world where we eliminated sexism,
Oh, he
then
said
yes,
reduce.
I-
He said reduce.
no,
I said
you
reduce.
said eliminate. You said eliminate.
I said reduce. I
He
said
said
reduce.
Okay, so
I said reduce every time.
okay, if you're reduce, right? I think it would have an effect, but you can't say if you have half as much sexism, you'll have half as much negative.
I want to make sure you understand the question that I asked you. This was the simple question. If we reduce the sociological factors that you think negatively impact women, will we have women that can live more freely in their disagreeableness? That's the question I asked you as succinctly as possible.
But it's not, because it's not a simple question.
That's cool, but I just want to know your answer. I understand it's not. I understand that it's not simple, but I want your response.
Because it's too, the answer you're asking is too reductive to give my proper feelings on the situation. So I would say, if there's less bigotry in the world, then we would expect better outcomes, right? Or at least different outcomes, right? But
I'm not asking about outcomes. I'm not asking about outcomes. I'm asking about a specific thing.
Okay.
I asked specifically about women being able to live disagreeably. So I said, if we reduce the technical sociological factors that you pointed out that you think causes women to have to flee from their disagreeableness, if we reduce those factors, do we think more women will be able to live disagreeably?
That's what I was trying to say.
Let's get back to Cam Newton.
Same thing I was trying to.
Let's get back to Cam Newton.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. I guess. The simple answer, yes.
Cool.
Okay. Cam Newton's a dick. Let's go back to that. Cam Newton's a piece of shit. Fuck Cam Newton. Fuck his upbringing. Fuck his family. It's like parents. Nice kid.
Jesus Christ!
I don't know anything about his kids.
I like how you said, "Wait, I didn't mean the rest of the family, just the
the parents,
Fuck
like the
your
parents.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring his kids into this situation. No. But yeah, fuck Cam Newton. So and we can go down all the ways, all the reasons why we should.
Well, I
say
really
Cam Newton should
wanted
go
to
home.
ask a question about the study. I don't know if you guys would know this. Is it possible that
I don't want to go too deep in the study
Well,
that we
you
haven't
gotta-
seen,
wait,
and we have.
Django, you got to keep up. We're leaving that. We're going back to the Cam Newton thing. We're past that. We can discuss that later if you want, but we're on the Cam Newton thing.
And seriously, send me the study. I would love to see it. Maybe, yeah. So thank you. Okay, yeah, Cam Newton. What else do you want to say about him and how terrible he is?
So I guess it really does boil down to this. I do think that there is merit to the idea that men typically, even if you say that it's patriarchal or aggressive or whatever, repressive, whatever the freak you want to say, this is what men want. So when he's saying you can keep all that bad bee energy and you're going to be single, or when he's saying that men want to lead. And so then when he's saying you can do all of that, but then you're not going to be whatever, then he's saying this isn't good. It's not a good thing. I think I can agree with that statement, while also still recognizing that, again, if they choose to live that way and they want to specifically look for men that are feckless enough to be led in that way, to be henpecked men, then that's their choice. And that you can choose to do so. But the idea that is that the best, I don't think for most cases it is the best.
Okay. Brilliant. Before I respond, I've been talking a lot. Fanatic's giving me a perfect opening here, but I want other people to jump in. And if they have something, maybe they can jump on that opening that Fanatic gave. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the present. Anyone else? No? Okay, then I'll do it. So
I literally blanked out. So
okay, Fanatic. Is it that men are told that or men like naturally want these women, right, to be passive, and that they want to lead, right? There's some sort of natural inclination, right? Not all, yeah, I agree, not all, even within your context, not all, but some sort of natural inclination, right, to lead and to want passive women, or is society telling them? Because this works both ways, right? On the other side, men are getting messages, right, as to what they should be, like from people like pieces of shit like Cam Newton, right? Maybe from people like that, right? They're being reinforced that this is the way that a family should be, right? Like Cam Newton's father apparently reinforced. Yeah, right? Fuck that guy. So this doesn't exist in the vacuum either. So we can't like necessarily like tease that apart and say, oh, well, a lot of men, like you took a poll. I'm sure if we took a poll, then you would find the results that Fanatic is saying, right? That a lot of men want this, right? Maybe even the majority. That's a possibility. But our society, every step of the way, is saying that should be the case. And then Fanatic gave me that gift. Thank you for that. Calling the men who don't want to lead, right, or be led by their wives. Let's say that feckless men, right? He insults them immediately, right?
Henpeck, Henpeck, cucklord, feckless men.
Exactly. That's it.
Oh.
Because if you're that type of guy, right, then you are less valuable. Right there, that
I agree.
insults you, right? Exactly.
I'm making that statement.
There you go. I win.
Fuck is based, yo. Fuck it,
Okay.
bro.
All right. So listen. Real quick. All right. So even in that regard, okay. The thing is, a lot of men's behavior is a reward-based relationship. Okay. The truth is, a lot of women want the men to lead. They want you to choose a place to date them. They want you to choose actually lead, go out there and like be ambitious and actually have a job and have this other project that you're working on. They want you to be ambitious. They want you to lead. You can see it every day. Every day. It's literally encouraged behavior, because if it wasn't encouraged behavior, men would stop doing it. They would literally just quit. They'd be like, okay, well, I can't do that. So I got to do what I got to do to get where I need to get. You know what I'm saying? They want to be they want to, you know what I'm saying, mess with these women. It's literally women go for the guys that are like that. They literally
I have a question.
Yes.
How do you not know you're not being manipulated to think you're leading?
Oh, I'm not saying that we're not. So here's the deal. I think that you can easily manipulate some weak-minded people into thinking that they're leading when they're actually just the woman is leading. I think that can happen. Two, I'm not even denying the fact that there aren't any biological things that have that there aren't societal implications that have led towards people wanting this. But I would say that those societal a lot of our society is formed around biological things, right? Like the reason why men worked and women didn't was because of their pregnancy and things like that. Like in a hunter-gatherer society, that's always going to be the fact that because of the fact that there's a portion in time where women can't work, and because of literal biological differences from going through testosterone as a male, that you're going to have certain advantages when it comes to hunting and gathering. Obviously, we're not hunting and gathering now, but because of these society things, we can obviously see a correlation between going out and work, going out and providing, and the woman making the home and rearing the children. So all of these things, we can get where they originated. And so I would say that society has continued in that vein, and I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing. We still recognize on average women need X amount of weeks off for birth. California has a large amount, one of the largest in the country, of maternity leave and things like that, because we recognize that women sometimes can have really strong complications. There might be sometimes where you have complicated pregnancies where they need 6 months off of work. 6 months off of work. If you're the sole provider in your family and you can't work for 6 months because you decided to have a child, now you have to make a choice between having a child, which is a risk to literally your survival, or actually making sure that the man is a provider where you never have to worry about those things, right? And so there's all of these things that society has led us to. And while we can say, yeah, so it's reinforcing these ideas, I think the ideas that they're reinforcing are biologically driven, and it makes all the sense in the world. Until a
Yes.
man can nurse a child from his tit, like there's gonna need to be, after having a child, even after, like, even if when you get past the pregnancy, the rearing portion of it still requires a woman. It's absolutely necessary. I mean, obviously you can do formula, but we know that the outcomes for like formula raised children as opposed to nursing is significantly worse. And formula is literally something that we had to come up with as an alternative for specifically cases where women couldn't nurse, or for specific cases where women have to go to work and things like that. Like, we've literally come up with this like facsimile alternative, which is not literally the best. So all of these things are biologically driven, and this is why men want these things.
With the proper hormones, men can lactate.
Come
on.
on.
You actually can. I don't know what to tell you. That's
You really didn't answer. I
Okay.
mean, you answered my question, but then you went on. But okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't like when people just throw around the word sociological, because everything that Fanatic said, these things have biological impulses that are feeding them. And like the fact that we think that men just woke up one day and were like, I want to construct reality this way, and there weren't biological urges for men and women to socially reinforce all these things, it's just wild. It's wild. It's like an infinite malleability argument, which is just absolutely not true.
I think also, man, like the statement that like, when like men can lactate with the right hormones and all that stuff. I really do feel like I empathize with the women who feel like they're being devalued in a specific way, because like it really does. It seems to me that like, yes, the idea that like we've always valued women for the things that they can do, right? Like and like people keep trying to like equate these two, like women can do what men can do and so on and so forth, and that never was the point. It was always that women had all of this value because of things that men could not do, like that men were not naturally inclined to do, like. There is a reason in a society to have human-based valued decisions. Like, that's absolutely essential, right? And women are significantly better at those kind of decisions. And guess where you need human-based value decisions? Rearing children. This is something they are just naturally better than us at, right? Now, that doesn't mean that they can't have value elsewhere. Like, obviously, society's been like reshaped in a way to where like you don't need like most jobs don't require brute strength. So it's not that they can't do these jobs, but then again, you are making a choice between doing the jobs, being a career woman, and like rearing your children. These things do have negative implications on them.
So-
Like, women have valuable rearing, like the ability to create a child is something that's one of the most miraculous and amazing things on the freaking planet. That's what makes women so freaking special. That's one of the things that makes women so special. Women lead with their hearts. Like, that's how you can pierce through and control a man. It's incredibly important. This is what men value. Women are actually amazing. I don't know why we keep trying to do everything where we're like diminishing everything until like everything can be a woman, when the woman's value is incredibly important. It's freaking nuts to me.
They lead with their hearts.
And we're doing this at the goal of inclusion.
They lead with their hearts.
Women,
Yes.
This is like
Good women,
ridiculous. This is like
I'm sorry, I should have
sad.
said good women. I should have said good women lead with their
Yeah,
hearts. That's
no,
my bad.
exactly.
I didn't
Yes,
call it.
devalue the rest. I get it. No, exactly.
Yes,
What I've been
yes, I
saying.
do.
Yes.
Actively
In our
devalue the
relationship.
rest. So,
You can-
like, I thank Gambit and Fanatic
Hold on, wait.
and Smooth for their.
If you can assign negative value to certain traits, we can as well. And we have a difference of opinion, so we're going to assign positive or negative traits to different things.
I'm agreeing with you. Society does apply negative and positive values to these things. That's why we have the world that we live in right now. The fact that Fanatic can call a man feckless for not wanting to lead, right? Yeah, it's because we as a society,
you agree, right?
We as a society put positive, negative values on there, right? And so it turns into, so it's not an even playing field, right? So women and their personality traits are like, we are socialized, right? And society tells you what are positive traits, what are negative traits, right? And we try to stamp out negative traits, right? For instance, like if you happen to be homicidal, that doesn't work, right? So we try to tamp that down, your homicidal urges. But for women, if you happen to want to, which is a good thing in that case, right? But it's not but the point is not even playing field. We'd have more murders if we didn't tamp down on people's homicidal urges, correct? We'd have more dead people, right? So agreed. So we'd have more women who led and or no, sorry, more women who wanted to lead, right, and wanted to create that kind of a household, maybe a partnership household, rather than like a leadership follower household type of situation. Yeah.
So wait, but this is one thing.
Bruh.
It's okay to say people can live differently from the norm, but you also got to deal with the consequences of that. If you become I don't like how in these conversations we try to prescribe the opposing opinion as just as equal, when in real life what happens is a lot of those women die alone. And that's not a good thing. So like when we ignore
hey,
what's actually happening to people,
You keep
people
proving my
becoming
point.
like
Again,
single
man.
parents and stuff.
Thank you for proving my point constantly. I really
No,
appreciate the help.
that's my yes.
Follow that up
Yes.
with a
If
What
you
a
think that
single
we
mother's
should
been doing for
if you
ages.
think that I should get on here and advocate for situations that lead to the destruction of women for a virtue
That's
signal,
right. They should
I'm
comply.
never gonna do that.
That's right.
I'm
Women
never
should
gonna do
comply
that.
and shut the fuck up. I agree. No, that makes sense. Go ahead, Smooth.
So look. So listen. So when you ask women en masse after being pregnant, do they want to work? You know what I'm
They say
saying?
no.
Afterward, they always say no. Like it's
No,
nearly
Prime
like
is telling them to shut up and go to work. I'm saying shut up and go to work.
Ridiculous amount percentage. So look. So no. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. They don't want to work. Guess how they end up not working? Having a man perform the leadership role of providing. If the man does the leadership role of providing, she
No,
can then get her
listen.
outcome that she wants. Her
Smooth.
children.
Smooth.
Not
You're
working.
forgetting how much of a capitalist Prime is. He's like, no, get those women out of the household, put their kids in daycare, and get their ass on the 9 to 5 and make this money. That's what Prime is. He's like, fuck what you want to do. All that natural inclination to be with your kid for like a few months or maybe a year after they're born. Fuck that. Get your ass in there to work. That's
My
what
man
that's
Gambit.
Prime is
I
a
love
Prime
my
is
man
a
Gambit.
true capitalist at its
I
sense.
love Gambit. Smooth,
Everybody
finish your
can
point
get it.
so I can tell you how wrong you are. But yeah, finish that point.
To the chat, there's already studies done on the question that I just proposed. You can literally just type that in the Google.
What was the
What's
question? What was the question?
The
Do
question
women want to work after they have kids?
Oh,
after they're pregnant?
yeah.
It's already been done 100 times, and the answer is no, resoundingly.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Just want to raise kids.
Yeah.
Have you given birth?
Exactly.
I mean,
Like after you push
but-
someone out of your fucking vagina, like do you want to work?
Well,
I
but
don't
Prime
know.
is telling you to get your ass to work.
That's not what
He
Prime is
doesn't care
saying.
about that.
That's
He
not
doesn't
what
care
Prime's
about
saying.
the complications you have after birth. Get
That's
your
not
ass
what
in there and
Prime-
work.
No,
Hey,
because you're
Jake?
confusing a few things. Smooth. You're confusing a few things here, right? One, Jake Cook is exactly on point, right? Yes, like childbirth is extremely medically taxing, right? And the fact that we oftentimes our society does force women back to work is a travesty, right? Because it's just like if you had a busted up arm and leg, right? You got in an accident, right? You suffered severe trauma. I wouldn't say, hey, get back to work, right? I say heal up. That's important, right? I would tell the same, like pregnancy is a physical trauma. This is why some women die in pregnancy. It's a severe trauma, right? So there's that. That's one point, right? And so we shouldn't force women back there. And then two, there was a natural inclination, yes, of women to want to take care of their kids, right? Right? To stay home and take care of their kids. But
Yes.
men also want to do that. Okay? That's why we're like moving to this idea of parental leave, right? Where men who also want to get to know their kids, right? Spend time with that bonding moment, right? At that critical period, they want to do that too. We're creating a society because there was a point in time. There's a point in time, and I'm almost done. There's a point in time when society, right, completely devalued men interacting with their kids. At least Western society did, maybe, and actually some Eastern societies too, from what I hear, and devalued men like doing that child rearing, right? And so men would just not interact with their kids. They were told you shouldn't, right? And so you had like the fathers who were there, right? And by providing, they were there, but like they weren't present with those children, right? Now we're creating a space because of feminism, thank you, feminism, right? Where men can feel safe to say, yeah, I actually want to hang out with my kids. I want to love my kids. I know my man Gambit has kids, right? And I know he loves his kids. I know he hangs out with his kids. I know he does all those things, right?
I want to tell you something
and I'm almost
about
done. I'm almost done. I promise I'm almost done. I want to hear what you have to say. So we're creating that space because men also have that inclination. They want to do that, right? And then some people want to go back to work afterwards, and some people don't, right? They have all kinds of preferences, but none of these preferences, even then, right, even with those natural inclinations that I'll admit right there, exist in a vacuum, right? Because you are a worse off woman if you decide I'm gonna be a career woman. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna focus on doing that. Than like necessarily staying home and taking care of my kids, right? You are less than as a woman. Society tells you. So none of this exists in the vacuum. I'm done.
Yeah, so I don't think that
I
they're
mean,
less
but
than. They're just less likely to find a mate that also wants that configuration, and that doesn't make them less than. That just makes them incompatible with what a lot of other people want. And that's not a positive or negative on either side. That's just is what it is. But anyway,
facts.
I think there was a study done on parental leave in men and women in similarly shaped positions, and the men on average took less time of parental leave than women, even if they were given the same options. So it seems to be that there's something about men that's like, yo, I'm gonna go get back to work and get this check. And women, even though men love their kids, like you said, just as much as women do, men seem to be more okay with, okay, I'm gonna let my woman handle this. I'm gonna go back to work and I'm gonna make this money.
The household is just it's happy that way.
Oh. Also, I was
Wouldn't
gonna say this, Smooth. Is that you're mixing two things in terms of like ambition and leading, right? Like a woman, yeah, women want ambitious men. They want men to like who are out there, like making that money or like advancing themselves somehow career wise, right? But that's not the same as leadership. Those two things are not synonymous. And
If
so I
Not
disagree.
necessarily. I
if
agree
you
with you.
if you if so look, I look at those things like thunder and lightning, right? You can have and you can be ambitious and not be a leader, but you can't be a leader and not be ambitious. Like it's just not possible. To lead means you have to look into the void and say, yo, we're gonna go beyond that. We're gonna find something out there. Ambitious.
I guess for a
That
good leader,
to
I mean,
lead.
maybe I might agree with you there. I might agree with you
I
there.
would say stagnation is probably like the sign of an ineffectual leader. Furthermore, Prime, I would ask you this question: do you think that like strength is a core component of leadership?
But before I do that, and I will answer your question, Charlotte, answer your question. Jay, I think you you want to say something and I interrupted you.
damn it, I fucking forgot it.
Oh my god. Ah.
Sorry.
So sorry.
Okay.
I'll
Oh my
remember
god,
it.
it's this female hormones. So let's fanatic, buddy. So you asked me whether strength is
Is
natural
strength a core component
of
of
leadership.
leadership?
Can you define strength for me, please?
Oh God, it's so I don't even know how to define strength.
I don't know either. Yeah, I don't know either. That's why I want to
So,
answer this,
um,
but I don't know.
You're talking about. Are you talking about?
Oh, there we
just
go. Capacity for exertion or endurance, like just the capacity to be able to like exert yourself in something or endure whatever comes with that thing. So like you need strength to be able to lead because leadership is going to require you to like confront different things, right? It's going to require exertion.
If
right?
it's exertion or endurance in that case, right? Then I would say that yes, that's the case, and women, and if
Another
that's the case, then
definition-
women
Hold on,
will be
wait,
the absolute
I got
best
you.
leaders.
Okay, and then the other thing is the power to resist force, right? Like that's part of strength, right? To resist force, because obviously, again, there's going to be a combative thing, right? The power of resisting
boy.
attack, right? Like these are all
Boy.
parts of strength. And so when I'm saying that a man that's unable to lead is feckless, literally what feckless means is just weak, right? Like that's what it means, weak and ineffective. And if you don't have strength, then you can't lead. And that's why I would say that you're weak, right? Because strength is a necessary component of leadership. I don't know why you were taking issue with the word feckless there. It literally applies for sure.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay.
He
So
agrees with us.
well,
We've changed.
sure. So let's focus in on. I want to try to drill down on what Fanatic is saying. And Django, if you have anything else you want to add, let me know. Okay. Trying to drill down on this. So you're saying, people who can endure, persevere, is this like that's strength, right? And that's a necessary part. So women have been persevering endlessly. under the yoke of patriarchy, right? With the repression that we put them under, and then they deal with physical trauma, right? A physical, sexual, emotional trauma, and they persevere, they endure. That sounds like a person who might be a good leader to me, right? Who have overcome all those challenges, all that trauma society puts on them. Yeah, I think I'd want a female leader now. Like, yes, Hillary for president. Oh my God, sorry. Oh, that hurt. That one hurt.
Oh,
that one hurt. I'm sorry. I take that back. I pull back.
Example
I
ever.
pull back.
Prime, you
I
can't.
pull back.
Wait, you can't say that on
Couldn't even
ABE,
keep her
bro.
husband.
I know,
She
I
couldn't even
pull
keep
back.
her husband.
That one hurt.
Talking about.
That one hurt. I'm sorry.
Kamala, something
I
that
went
it
too
was
far.
more-
You're right.
Yeah, you can't do that on ABE. You do that on the Reverend. Do that on the Reverend.
Yeah, but I think like ultimately like yes, like again, strength is not the only thing, and I'm not saying that women can't lead. I just don't think that they're naturally inclined, because I do think, again, disagreeableness is a necessary component. There's a specific responsibility that we like put on leaders, because leaders are responsible for like the outcome, and we already have a society that really doesn't push accountability onto women, and I think that's literally part of it, is because of the fact that like, to whom much is given, much is required, and there is a specific level of strength that's associated with men and things like that, like biologically.
Let me throw you a bone. Let me try
Go
to
ahead.
give you a bridge, right? Let me build a sexist bone to you. So so if you were saying, right, that you need disagreeableness, and we're more or less disagreeable in our human society, right, to be a leader, right? If I accept that, and I do accept that you have to be disagreeable to a point to be a leader, right, so that your followers don't run all over you, right? I hear you. If you're saying that's a necessary component, and with other things as well, and that women in our society have less of it, or at least display less of it, then I would agree that within our patriarchal society, as we've designed it, we are training women to be less effective leaders. That as things stand, then you would have less women who could be effective leaders. But I wouldn't say it's because of any sort of natural inclination, any sort of biological influences, right? That I can
No, the
see.
science would.
It would
Not
be
you,
because
science.
because of sociological factors. Could we maybe say that if we have a society that's pushing that, then a society would be making less effective women leaders? Can we?
Yeah, sure. I would say. Oh, sorry, really quickly. I would say society is as well, but I think society is only because biology did, and society is just reinforcing what biology was already doing.
And that's the gulf that we can't bridge right there. Sure, fair enough.
For sure.
So okay, so quick question for y'all. Biology is a science, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right. Sociology, that's a science, correct?
Yes. Psychology is too.
Science uses math, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So then
Sociology
this
would
is
use
back
math
to this
too?
is back to earlier. So then like if then A, then you get B. If A then equals B, like then you have B then equals C, then inherently C then equals A. So in this scenario,
Friend,
you know,
associative property, yeah.
you know, so what we have here is biology enforces sociology, which then enforces the roles that people have. So biology enforces the roles that people have.
Sure.
That's what
That's a
what
proof.
we have.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like the fact that we haven't, like, the idea that we haven't seen math in like sociological studies, like we're controlling for like whatever number of n, is just crazy to me. I don't even, that was like the most silly thing that I've ever encountered. Like that
Yeah, Prime, that was wild.
The fact that you guys say
That was
biology
crazy.
equal math,
polling
that
is
like the
sociology.
transitive properties necessarily equate
Associative.
to human.
Associative.
Excuse me, thank you. That's why I love learning the black men, right? I love to see it, right? Yeah, associative. I always get those things mixed up. Thank you. The associative property necessarily has a direct correlation within how sociology works. That's the wildest thing. Like I don't believe that that's how you think. I mean, if you think that, then clearly you don't know. It's not that there's no math in sociology, but I'm saying sociology is not math.
I'm not saying that it was. It was. Like
So
Prime,
you
I feel like
No,
that was
it's
you were intentionally being really reductive because I wasn't saying that like it like literally follows a 1-to-1. Obviously, there's going to be so many factors, right? So
okay?
like
So then it's
reducing it to a
useless.
single
Did you not use
variable,
the math equation?
huh?
I thought you
Well,
used the math equation
I
earlier.
did, and I was gonna explain why. Because
Okay.
obviously, we all know that literally that you can't reduce anything like start something like social. You can't reduce it to a single thing, right? So we can't just say sexism is the one thing, which is what Prime was doing, and I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. What I was saying though, that if you're trying to make the argument that sexism is this thing, then we would start looking and comparing to other societies where sexism is less prevalent, and say
we're
that
gonna
you'll see
make
less of that
sexism a
thing. And the only
variable.
reason why I came up with an analogy, and the reason why I use math, is because I thought that the math provided a really, really reasonable analogy. We would understand that the less presence of
Yes.
something equals the less presence of an outcome if there is a correlative effect. That's literally how you do any correlation study of any kind whatsoever. If there's a correlation of something, then the higher incidences of that thing means more prevalence of that thing. If we can reduce that thing and see that there is still even more prevalence of that thing, then we'd probably say that these things are anti-corollary, and then therefore like the whole argument that you're making
I have to see the
doesn't
study.
stand.
I can't really engage with it. Like maybe you're right. Maybe if I look at the study, it's convincing.
Wait,
And I
wait,
know you sent
but
you put it in the group DM.
yeah,
I'll
hold on,
take a
wait,
look at it
no,
Yeah,
but
later.
I'm saying you can engage with his logical theoretical point though. You can agree that if we reduce this thing
I already
and
did.
the outcome maximizes his anti-corollary, you can agree with that though.
I agree with that. I just not willing to apply it to this situation
No,
without more
and that's
knowledge.
Right,
fine.
until you
That's
see the
fine.
study, and that's fair. That's
Okay.
fair. When you see
Yes,
the
that's
study and you
perfect.
read through it, and you find out that like, wow, everything that Fnatic and Gambit were saying is absolutely 100% factual, then I'll be happy because you're like learning, and that's what we all want to learn, right?
Oh my
You
God.
had me in a douche. I was doing it. What?
Yeah. I love it. Fanatic's great. Fanatic is great. Okay. Do we want to say anything else on like literally Cam Newton though, right? Because my problem is that like you guys are giving him a pass. We have a few minutes remaining in this segment. But I felt you guys were giving him a pass for his sexism just because he. Okay, you can agree that if you criticize two different things, it doesn't mean that both criticisms are equal. Can we agree on that?
Yes, we can agree on
Okay,
that for
okay,
sure.
that's fine.
Okay, great. Right. You don't see his comments as being sexist, and I acknowledge that you don't see that. But we can agree that those two things might be different. It's a possibility that those two things could be meant to be taken differently, or maybe
So
not.
I would say in your defense of your point that you're making, that the receiver of said message that he said could be seen as more sexist based on the receiver and how that receiver was upbrought and how they perceive the world. Then yes, they could see it as more sexist, and I would respect their opinion on seeing it as more sexist.
Sure.
Hey Jay, I got a question for you really quickly. Can you just help me out with a few things? You know, this might be a little bit personal, but you just indulge me as far as you can on this public platform, okay?
Gotcha.
Do you think that you are more attracted towards a strong man that's leading? Would you say that is more attractive to you, or do you think that or do you look forward to leading in your relationships more?
Strong man that's leading. Let's just say man. I don't think you have to be strong. I think you have to be mentally strong. I don't think you
Sure.
have to be physically strong.
Right, that's what I mean. I'm not talking about physical strength. I'm talking about like mental fortitude, like tenacity, all of those things that are like, important to leading.
More attracted to a strong man that's leading. No. And hope they're not in chat. But no, I don't. Because that is something I've seen personally in my my family. Like I've seen those relationships that I've seen how they've played out, and those have been like grandmother, grandfather, married 50 plus years, their whole lives, 7 kids, like on my mom's side. It didn't look healthy as a kid growing up, just to say the least. So no, not really. I want a partner, and I want someone we can both make decisions with together, because that's something that I think is healthy, And I think when it comes to having kids, like you have to show as a united front. And I don't think you can do that if there's like some perceived power dynamic, or someone is perceived as like the buck stops here, or like the boss of the family. Like you have to show up, to me, just as a parent, you have to show up as a unit. And yeah.
Okay, but Jay, like
So one-
I want to. Can I say really quickly, just to follow this up really quickly? Like one, I think what you're identifying is like maybe a form of toxic leadership or toxic masculinity, in which a person becomes a leader, but in really crazily overbearing, really disrespectful, and completely disregarding whatever. And I don't think that that's leadership. That's just disrespect, right? And then secondly, I would say that like the idea that you would still be like a unit, like you still show up as a unit, but like typically some person is more informed and therefore more able to make decisions. We've seen, even like in our patriarchal society, like the normalization of the phrase "ask your mother," when like asking the dad, "Hey dad, can I do such and such?" And the dad like very often, "Ask your mother." It's not because the man doesn't feel comfortable leading, it's just that the man recognizes, man, she's around these kids more so, she's probably the one who structured and organized this house more so, this is her domain, she is the queen of this castle, and so therefore I'm probably going to actually let her lead in that area, right? Like this is like her domain, right? And like you'll find plenty of times where like a man will feel like, I remember I have an uncle and I love him to death, and his wife, like he never cooked a single meal, and I never saw it. He never had his wife, that they just didn't have those roles, right? But what was crazy about it is like we were always like praising him, and he was like, literally all of these decisions were the decisions of my wife. I like would have things where it's like I wanted to help these people. He's been like a really strong like patriarch in our family. Like he took on so many of us, but really it was his wife that did it. And when he repainted it to us, we had to recognize like, dang. And he said when she was ready for someone to go, then I had to get that person out of the house. That woman and him together took on 40, 50 kids, literally, and like not simultaneously, but just over their lifetime, raising and like and doing them. The reason why I refer to adults as sir and ma'am is because of them. A lot of like my decency and things came from those individuals. And she just recently passed in January. So, but the point is, he had respect for his wife, even though he was a leader, and she always respected him as a leader. She always like, yo, he's gonna get his plate first. Da, 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 da. He has his special chair, nobody else sits in. He was the leader, but no matter what, almost in all situations, he included and respected the decisions of his wife, because he said, this is her house. She's gonna have more of an impact on making sure that the meals are cooked for this person, making sure this person is disciplined and not like corrupting the rest of the kids. Like she was a homeschooler, so she raised all 7 of the children, like, and she was the instructor, she was the teacher. So she had all of these roles of importance and value, but ultimately when he needed to come to California for his job, he made that decision like, yo, this is where I gotta go. When like very often he was a leader while she was very much in control, and he obviously respected her decisions. And I think I get that so often we see these really toxic representations of what is supposedly leadership, and it's really just niggas that are insecure. And I don't think you can lead from an insecure position. I think really you have to be able to be confident in your masculinity and able to respect the women that are around you, and recognizing that they are literally every bit as valuable as you are. And so that if you're making decisions that are harmful to them, that is absolutely toxic. But I think to dismiss leadership because of like examples of insecure people that are like toxic, I think that's unfair. That's not leadership. That's toxic.
Unfair. I'm sorry, what's unfair?
It's unfair. I guess it's like it's not a fair representation of what leadership is. I think you're associating dominance and toxic masculinity with leadership, and those two things are not the same thing.
I mean, I've seen good examples outside of upbringing, but again, like I'm not in that family dynamic, but I disagree.
Okay, I respect it. And again, I don't think you're a worse person, just so that we're clear real quick, for like not valuing like leadership, and like some women literally do want to lead. But I think that, and again, this is not me trying to this is not a dig, but the thing that I was saying earlier about like environment and conditioning like leading women into this situation where they want to lead, I feel like your environment and leader and conditioning from seeing these toxic masculine people and these really feckless, insecure dudes that are like dominating and not being like fair, then that causes women to say, I want to lead. I got to have my own because I can't be dependent on a nigga. And I don't think that it's a natural inclination. I think it's more so that when you encounter that kind of toxicity, it's like, I don't feel comfortable trusting a man to be this person because men have been disgusting in society historically, right? You give too many, you give people unchecked, even currently, you give people unchecked power and they're going to abuse it, and men have been abusive, and that's why women are in these positions. But I think it's natural and biological for women to want to be led by a decent, well-respecting Christian values man. I threw the Christian values in there, but yeah. Yep, I did it.
You slid that in there.
Stop.
Yes.
Oh my God.
John 22.
I don't have a rebuttal.
She's like, how do I go sign up for
I
it?
don't have a rebuttal.
I'm sorry, I got
that.
Yo, she gonna be on Christian Mingle. She's gonna be on Christian Mingle right after this.
That's right.
But no, I do know of like I have a good friend. I would consider them in a female led relationship, and because I mean she is the breadwinner, but she also has dictated like where they have had to move because of that, and just using your example. But yeah, I don't think it's that one-sided. I don't think it should be. I think you have to have that trust in the relationship first, and that kind of navigates that, you know? Does that make sense?
Would you say for your friend's relationship where she is the financial leader, that if they decide to have kids, and I think you were even
she
agreeing
wants to have
with that,
kids.
but you do agree that that's going to be more impactful to a family where she's the breadwinner, right?
Do I agree it's going to be financially?
Financially,
yeah.
Which is a big important part of a relationship, right? Like that's gigantic
But
portion.
it's more than, I mean, wouldn't you also agree like it takes a village? Like, I mean, they definitely have
For sure, but
family
unfortunately, a lot of
going
us
for
that have
that.
to move, like you said, she had to move. We don't have that village once we're moving. Like me and my girl been in Atlanta alone. We don't have a village here. It's just us, right? So if she's having to move for opportunities, like you said, it's less likely that she's gonna have that foundational village near wherever she's having to move to, right?
And more directly important, you like during the pregnancy, there's complications, and for a portion in time after having the child, like there's literally going to be this financial impact. If she's the sole provider, for instance, and she can't work during that time, then that means now it puts a lot of strain and pressure, because like then depending on what state you're in, you only get an X amount of like maternal leave, and then you have to go back to work. And so then at this point now, if if you want extra time or need extra time, you're kind of screwed in that situation. That's it's a really huge burden on the family. Now, while I get it takes a village, and typically the part of that village prospect is to have the woman woman at home during this time, during the childbearing part, during this critical time, while the man is working, because he literally, one, can't lactate, two, is not going to be incapacitated physically as a result of the child. So the childbearing is literally an unnecessary financial labor impediment, right? And I think that's where it's like, again, you do have to start making more decisions, like more complicated decisions when you're the sole provider or the breadwinner in a relationship, because most people live at their means. So then if you're living at your means and now you're having a child and you're the breadwinner, then that means now that you're more impacted during this time. And it's, again, people can make those decisions, and sacrifices are necessary in order to have children. Children are a costly endeavor, right? So it's going to happen, but like just by way of being a woman in the scenario, there are way more complications associated with childbirth.
Well,
like,
I think that's why we should have paid family leave, like there should just be better,
for sure.
standards.
Yeah. I don't think you're gonna get a disagreement on that one.
Yeah, but there is a greater risk because of like complicated pregnancies. For instance, I had a sister that like her pregnancy was particularly complicated, so she had to be on bed rest from like the 3-month mark or maybe the 4-month mark. And so from that point on, it's like that's literally 5 months. It's actually 40 weeks. I don't know why we always say 9, but anyway, it's 5 months where like, right, it's wild. But where she literally like wasn't able to work. Fortunately, her husband was a stay-at-home mom. All of this works out. But think about 5 months without raising a kid, and then think 5 months of whatever before you deliver, and then you can't just go right back to work immediately. Let's say give you a month afterwards, right? Like sometimes you can do 2 weeks, whatever. But like now that's 6 months of like literally not having work. 6 months, it's half of a year. That's crazy impactful to a family's like annual income, right? Like, and no state is ever gonna get to the point of 6 months, right? That's too much.
Yeah, and like the other thing is like a lot of people like the first 6 weeks you can get like short-term disability or something, but a lot of the time to extend it to the 6 months period after 3 months, people have to take FMLA, which is unpaid completely. So like even though like a lot of people do get a 6-month period, because my girl did this, but we were able to because of our situation, she was able to stay off work for 3 months and she wasn't paid at all. So like a lot of people don't understand, like that's a part of the complication of taking off for work. Like part of it is paid and part of it is completely unpaid, but they give you the ability to elect to do that. And all of those things have financial implications.
Yeah. Which is why we just need to have that paid family leave in general. And for everyone.
More stay-at-home moms. Or more stay-at-home moms.
Or stay-at-home dads, because it's another thing I really wanted to get to, but we didn't get to touch on that. We didn't get to touch on that.
I mean,
we get to
you guys not like kids? I'm confused.
That's not gonna work.
I love kids. I'm just saying you just made me vomit when you use that like abomination phrase. Stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, like it's not. If she's already at home and then I'm at home too, like that ain't helping our situation.
No, the opposite of that. She goes to work.
He's saying send her to work. Prime, this is what she's
stay at home. If you're both staying at home,
this is what Prime has been saying this whole time. Prime is like, no, you get your ass up and go to work, and I'm gonna chill at the crib. Like,
that sounds just as patriarchal. That sounds just as patriarchal. Forcing these women into labor camps, making these women into mules.
It's not obvious. Yeah, like she would work. It's like, for instance, I had a friend. His wife was making more money than he was during his career. They had kids. The cost of childcare was high, right? And realized almost all his paycheck was disappearing into childcare. Then in that case, why don't you stay home with the kids? So he decided to stay home. She was on the single income until the kids grew up more, and then he could start working again, right? It's the same decision other people make, but just the other way around.
I'm cracking jokes, but like just to be 100% real, if whatever works for you, if the stay-at-home dad situation works for you, then do whatever works for you. I'm just not a fan of me personally. I'm not a fan of that. I've always insisted I'd be like hyper involved with my children. I could just be the person that you think you wanted in your life. So like that's just my role, right? But ultimately, like if the woman like is like super career driven, some women are really career driven and really like working. They get a lot of fulfillment from those jobs, and in those cases, then go ahead and continue to do your job, whatever it is, professional shopping or playing at ballet, whatever the freak you're doing, like do that thing. But I'm just saying, like if you're going to do that thing, like you have to recognize that like children rearing is going to have like those complications.
Yeah, I just think back.
I disagree on that part.
I think back to the great Destiny's Child, how they made bills, and I've yet to hear a nigga make a song that says, I want to stay at home while my woman pays for everything. I haven't seen that. So when this cultural artifact starts to pop up, maybe I'll engage with it, but I think it's absolute nonsense.
Hey, Miss Independent by Neo.
It's a sucker
Scrubs by TLC.
No. But in none of those situations, in none of those situations are they advocating that their woman be like independent and they are dependent upon her.
So
he's advocating for like his woman to be self-sufficient, and he's also self-sufficient, and that's like a better. Like most of those songs are like that. They aren't. I'm gonna chill at the crib and you gonna pay.
Last thing before, because I know Fanatic's got to go. He's got stuff to do. Is that I disagree when you say that there necessarily are impacts on child rearing. Actually, maybe you're not saying this, and you'll have to correct me. But like. If it's like a stay-at-home dad, because it sounded like you were saying at the end that has some sort of negative, detrimental impact on child rearing, that like a mother would necessarily be better at that.
No. I was saying specifically when it comes to like One, like obviously, like it's just there's more complications. You can like navigate around them. It's just incredibly difficult, right? Like, because a woman can like get into the habit of like pumping at work and things like that. So there's like no milk and
Exactly.
things like that. There's things that you're gonna do, but that's complicated, right? Like, no one wants to. Now we're like measuring, like, what's the expiration date on this stuff? How much are we freezing, and all of these kind of things, and like so that all that whatever.
Yes.
If there's a complicated
Mhm.
pregnancy, it's like, well, how long are we gonna be off at
Yeah.
work? Like, Lord, now we have zero income if you have to take this extra 3 months because of complications. Like, there's so many more decision things
Yeah.
that go into it, like literally that just make it significantly more simple. Like, for if you accidentally screw up and leave one of those milk things out, and now we don't actually have milk, like at least you have a titty there that just says "I got you," right? Like, a man can do nothing in that
Yes.
scenario. There's so many complications that that like are just literally eliminated by the presence of a woman there, by the presence
Yeah.
of the mother. So like, I think I again, not that it can't be navigated around, not that you can't do other things. I'm just saying it's so much more complicated and it's significantly more risky. You agree with that
Yeah.
part, Prime? It's way more risky.
Yeah.
To way more risky specifically for a man to be at home rather than
Versus a woman.
Yeah. I'm gonna say it really succinctly. It's more risky for a woman to be the sole provider and to have children.
Oh, to be
And
the
for a
sole
man
provider.
to
Oh,
be the
that's
sole-
yeah. I wasn't
Yeah.
talking about that before, but
Because
yeah,
we're talking about
I
stay
agree.
at home dads.
Yeah.
So, hon, sorry. So no. You're saying I'm a little confused. I think we're mixing two things, and maybe I missed it. You're saying that single women, like, it's outcomes are worse for them because of all the things they have to deal with, right?
No, he's
Single
talking about
mothers?
stay-at-home dads.
Stay-at-home
So
dads.
they-
Okay, so I don't agree then. If it's stay-at-home dads, then necessarily the outcomes, or it's like that much more risky.
That is more risky. Well, like a complication in pregnancy is more detrimental to a family with the sole providing woman, right?
I see. Okay, so like if there's already, I'm thinking if there's like the first kid and they're both working, then one decides to stay. But you're having a larger expanse on this. So you're saying like, okay, if this couple wants to have multiple children, the guy is staying at home for the like the first kid, right? Second kid's coming in, there's a complication, right? Then she's out of work for a certain period of time. Okay, I'll give you there. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then of course, obviously, like the storing of the milk and all those things. It's just more risky in general. And but again, not that it can't be done. Women are doing it. Women are working jobs and literally like freezing milk and giving it to the nursery and all sorts of stuff. So it can be done. I'm just saying it's way more complicated and way more risky.
All right.
Yeah.
You know, everyone can do whatever the freak they want to do. You know, I believe every man has a right. Like, we have a right. We have freedom in this country. And if you decide to be a cuckold, don't let anyone shame you out of that. Call me up. I will service your wife. Whatever needs to be done. I'm just saying, like, it's everyone has the freedom to do what they want.
Thank you.
I'm good at what I do.
Thank you so very much, every single one of you. Right? I love these guys. It's my favorite panel. So we'll continue on to our second topic. We'll say goodbye, Fanatic. We'll continue on. But Fanatic, thank you for coming through and being a part of this. It means a lot, helps a lot, right? And like I love engaging with you. Whether you agree or disagree, especially when you disagree.
For sure. I'm glad that we were able to disagree. We didn't have to scream over each other and act all stupid. I say that specifically because of the fact that Eli the Curry wasn't here. But anyway, listen, you guys, you can follow my stream, twitch.tv/MrFanatic. But what I'm going to be doing right now is probably something not very entertaining to you guys. I'm going to be streaming the freaking prayer meeting I have from church. I mean, the Bible study. Nobody wants to be part of that. It's not entertaining even a little bit. So I'm telling everybody who doesn't really care for Christianity, which is most people on Twitch, to go ahead and go to watch the ABE, watch the rest of that. Twitch.tv/PrimeCayes, PrimeCayes. Y'all check out my music under the name Fanatic. That's it. I love you guys, and I'll catch you guys later.
Have a good one, buddy. All right.